It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Daily Dealer Live. I'm your host, Sam Dark. Thank you for joining us today in this gathering place for all automotive to learn, to share, to grow, to have a voice. Today, you'll notice my background's a little different. Today, I'm here broadcasting live from Ziglar Motorsports in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'll give you a little more on that in a moment, but it was kind of a specific request from a viewer Wednesday saying, lose the black screen for an episode. We did it. More on that in a minute. But first, let's dive into today's automotive headlines. First up today, Amazon Auto, the e-commerce giant's online car buying platform, has announced new lending partnerships with Chase, Santander, and Wells Fargo. For now, the partnerships extend to used and certified pre-owned vehicles only, but Amazon Autos does plan to expand these offerings to new car sales, quote, in the coming months, according to the official announcement. Like other digital retailing platforms, customers can submit their credit applications online and compare loan offers side by side before completing paperwork online and picking up their vehicle from a participating dealership. In addition to leveraging Amazon's digital storefront, market reach, and sales process, partner dealers can now offer customers loan providers they already use in store, rather than being limited to just one or two provided by them. They also risk relinquishing massive control over the customer relationship. Zooming out, the more valuable angle Amazon Autos is most likely after is collecting data on customer preferences and financing behavior, which could eventually lead to the launch of its own branded financial products or deeper integrations with Prime. Super interesting to watch Amazon grow in this initiative, starting with Hyundai, then to used, and then to parts abroad. Next up in the news today, on Truth Social, President Trump recently announced a 25% tariff on imported medium and heavy-duty trucks. It's set to take effect November 1st, a move that will likely create more headaches for automakers trying to figure it out. What's unclear is how far the tariffs will reach and whether they'll include tariffs from Mexico and Canada or countries like South Korea and Japan that already have trade deals with the U.S. Ford, on the other hand, is largely protected here and applauded the president for its development. Every Super Duty Ford sells is built in Kentucky and Ohio. GM, on the other hand, assembles some heavy-duty trucks in Canada, and Stellantis builds its Ram 2500 and 3500 trucks in Mexico. That means both of those OEMs could face higher costs if those regions aren't exempt. Ford is well positioned with this move. And while light-duty trucks account for most U.S. auto sales, the heavier segments are still real profit drivers for automakers, ultimately fanning the flames of an already tense trade environment, a constantly evolving tariff environment. And last up today, we turn to the CDG buy-sell tracker for an update. Ed Canley Automotive Group has acquired Metro Lexus and Lexus of Akron Canton from Ascent Automotive Group. That adds two of Ohio's top-performing Lexus stores to the Ganley portfolio. This, according to Kerrigan Advisors. Metro Lexus ranks first in state and 10th in its region, while Lexus of Akron Canton ranks third. Together, they control nearly 75% of Lexus market share in Greater Cleveland. Now, Ken Ganley Automotive Group operates more than 50 dealerships, representing over 30 brands. And the Cleveland market is one of the most ludicrous. Oh my goodness, it's not ludicrous, it's lucrative. It's one of the most lucrative in the U.S. for Lexus, with less than a handful of stores serving nearly 4 million people. And don't forget, everyone, you can see this deal announcement and many more throughout the entire year on the CDG buy-sell tracker at cdgbuysell.com. That's exactly right. And that's a wrap on today's auto industry news, which brings us to co-host today, Yuli. Welcome back.
What's up, guys?
And look, for everybody joining the live stream, we're live across all CDG social media platforms. Post your comments. This is the place all of automotive has a voice. It's the place to engage in the conversation. So if you're watching the live stream, get involved, post your comments. We'll bring them into today's show. It enriches it, which, Yuli, did you notice my background? Do you notice I'm in a different place?
I did. It looks like you're outside.
It
See a
looks like I'm
Maserati behind
outside
you? It's nice.
because at Motorsports you bring the outside inside to sell all the
love
cool
it.
toys they have here. So we have temporarily created a stage. We have 5 vehicles on the showroom floor. We're bringing the best person to do a walk around from the top 5
Very
presentations we did thus far, and they will compete tonight for the crown of 2025 Product Knowledge Champion
love that.
across all the Ziglar Auto Group. And so I've got the 5 vehicles behind me. You see a Maserati off to this side. You see the Ford or the Ram off to this side.
Are we going to
There's
see
also
someone do a
Honda
wheelie
Ford truck.
behind you?
We should. That would be cool. Actually, if Caleb is watching the live stream, he is free to quietly do some sort of an EV or something
Like an
right
e-bike.
behind me. Yeah. But it's kind of exciting. You're going to see a
it's
little
cool.
bit of chaos as people are walking around. You'll probably hear some things because we are in an active motorsports store. But it's fun to bring you this unique perspective on this day when everybody across Ziglar gathers. So, hey, that brings me to a point. Everybody wants a voice on this show. We welcome it. We would love to have as many dealers on this show as we can possibly get. If you want to be on the show, if you have an opinion, if you have a viewpoint on current events in automotive, go to cdgguest.com, fill out the intake form to be included in the show. And then final up today, you can join us at the NADA party that's happening in Vegas on Thursday, February 5th. You'll be there. I'll be there. A lot of our guests, or some of our guests who've appeared on the show will be there. To be considered for a formal invite, hit the link in the show notes, request to join, and fill out a questionnaire. Spots are limited, as we've said, and unfortunately, we can't invite everyone. So RSVP today to be considered for an invite, and we hope to see you in Las Vegas. And by the way, Lauren Klein reminds me, she says she's watching today's show from the showroom floor. We've had people in sky lounges. We've had people in air watching the show live. I'm now watching from a showroom floor myself. So I'm excited to be back in on the retail showroom, lose the black background for a day. So, all right, well, let's dive into it, Yuli. Let's turn to Operations Director, our first guest of Lasco Auto Group, Kelsey Riley. Welcome to the show, Kelsey.
Hi, Sam and Yuli. Thank you for having me on today.
Kelsey, we're pumped to have you on. You're actually on the opposite side of the state from us here at the Ziglar Auto Group. We're in Kalamazoo. You're in, well, tell us where you are.
So we have a Ford store in Fenton, population of about 12,000, and then we have a Mitsubishi store in Grand Blanc.
Nice.
Well.
Oh, Grand. Yeah. Okay, very good. So you're just north of Detroit by a little bit, right?
Yeah, about 45 minutes north of Detroit, about 20 minutes south of Flint.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, we always start with one question on the Daily Dealer Live, and it is, how's biz? So tell us, how is biz? And along with that, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do at the dealership.
Okay, so as far as who I am, I've been here going on 13 years since I graduated college. Obviously, nobody as a kid is like, oh man, I want to grow up and work in a dealership. But I came in shortly around my graduation time and moved back home, had some sick family. My friend, best friend was working here. She's like, hey, I got you a job. I'm like, okay, awesome. Had no intentions of sticking around, was going to go to grad school. My degree's in biology. And then fell in love with the business. Wanted to learn as much as I could. Really kind of came up in the variables side. I went through NADA Academy and learned, fixed operations and that type of thing. And I have a partner here who comes from the the fixed ops side. So between the two of us, we've got a good foundation of experience between the two departments. But really, I mean, we're in growth mode this year. We're up about 415 units year over year. So we're averaging about 50 more units a month right now. We got our first President's Award ever last year. So that was awesome. We've been in business since 1983. We're family owned. So that was a big one. So
you're up 400 units. How many units do you sell a year? What?
A year? We are tracking about...
It's not a test.
Yeah,
you can make up the answer. No, I'm kidding. Don't make up the answer. And by the way, you'll hear paging in the background. Somebody was paging for somebody, Carrie. That was not for you, Kelsey, just so you know. But that was my background. Good. I'm kidding.
We're trending to do about 3,250 this year.
Okay.
So we're doing about 275 units a month right now. Our goal is to get over that 300 cuff.
Yeah, so you're about 15% up. So when you think about that increase, that's a substantial increase, even compared to other dealers. What's one thing that you would attach to that increase in unit sales this year?
So
what's causing the increase?
We've really focused on people and process, I would say. Making sure, as Good to Great says, like having the right people on the bus, right? And then once you have the
Yeah.
right people on the bus, finding the right seats for those people. And we had the right people on the bus, and we moved some people around and that type of thing, and really got them in spots where they flourish. We focused on like the team atmosphere and growth and employee experience, because if you don't have a good employee experience, it's really hard to have that like top tier customer experience.
Yeah.
So those are kind of things that we have really honed in on. And without the people in process, it's really hard to get the volume and then the customer retention with it. So,
All right. So you talk people, process, and retention. I want to come back to process in just a second, but I want to take you back to a comment you made earlier.
yeah,
And I think it's a truth. You said, I never intended to be in automotive.
I did
Like
not.
you got a biology degree, you probably had other plans. And then you came into automotive. It took you a hot minute, but then you decided at some moment, hey, this is for me. Same path, right?
Yeah.
What is it about automotive that causes people to say, hey, I'm not going to do this forever. I'll do it for now. And yet people stay. And what is it going to take for us to kind of lose that stigma? Why
So I was
don't
just
people
gonna
plan
say
on this?
it was the stigma, right? Like when she was, my best friend had, got me in, and she was like, I was like, man, I really don't know. Dealership doesn't have the best stigma, right? Well,
Right.
why I stuck around? I mean, we've got amazing owners. We've got an amazing team. I love that we're family owned. I love the chaos of the day. So we
Yeah.
have, 165 employees company wide. Between sales and service and ROs and all of that type of thing, between the two stores, we probably have close to 1,600 customers coming through each month.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's just no day is the same, and I love that challenge, right? And it also like you get in the room with like certain people, and everybody just motivates you to be, not to sound cliche, but like 1% better every day is the goal,
Yeah.
right?
So
Um,
Kelsey, you mentioned having the right person on board.
yeah.
Where are you finding, given the stigma and given the allure of automotive, I think this is the best kept secret in employment in the United States. Like, not enough people realize how great it is to work in an auto dealership or as part of an auto group.
Agreed.
Where are you finding your best employees that are the right people to bring on that bus today in
So
2025
we
October?
have a lot of tenure. We have a lot of sales reps that have been with us for 5, 10. We have people getting 15, 25
Nice.
longevity awards and that type of thing. And I know that you have had people on the past that have maybe talked about like sometimes it's like bad to have that retention that long.
Yeah.
But I think when you have the right people, it's what stabilizes you in a challenging market. Like obviously, automotive has been like pretty volatile since COVID, right? So having the right people, recruiting, and then when you have that environment that people do well in, they tend to refer, other people that
Yeah.
they've worked with.
Yeah.
And we do get a decent amount of our staff off of
Referrals.
employee referrals. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
Kelsey,
now
there's
turn
a
us to process. Turn us to process for just 1 second, Yuli, and then you can come back in. So you've got the right people and they're on the bus and they're rowing in the same direction. They're bought into the vision.
Yeah.
What's one process in 2025 that has helped you to capitalize and get that increase? So you've got this team launching towards the goal. What's a process you've implemented where you're like, hey, this is really driving increased sales for us?
This is going to sound very simple. We've worked on communication internally. So
Okay. How do
we
you do
have
it?
a morning meeting every morning. It starts at 8:45 with the sales staff. We have email communication with updated numbers and that type of thing. Everybody knows what the mission and goal is for the month. Like if you don't have a mission, it's kind of hard to have a goal of what everyone's trying to strive for, right? Um, I would say that that's like the biggest thing in our process is in,
And
and we still have challenges with it. Like communication is, I think,
yeah,
every organization's Achilles heel to some point. But
yeah.
yeah,
Is there a technology tool that you're using to help forward that communication that other dealers could implement to help improve their own? If they're like, hey, we're 2 or 3 rooftops, we don't communicate well enough, and if we did, we'd sell more cars. Is there a tool you're using to communicate with?
we use Teams. So we switched to Microsoft Office about 2 years
Yeah.
ago. And it's easy. Like you can have the apps on your phone. There's chats in there, the email, all of that type of thing. The Teams calls makes things, I would say, roll a lot smoother. We also obviously have like our text group chats and that type of thing as well. So.
Yeah.
In regards to processes and
Yeah.
your tenure, because obviously there's a tremendous amount of upside for having the same people that are there greeting your customers and, creating that welcoming atmosphere. But there is that negative potential with people that are a little, accustomed to being around.
Yeah.
Being that your group is so successful, what helps you guys implement new processes in 2025? Because I would imagine your car buying process, while being pretty linear since the beginning of time, has evolved dramatically over time. So how do you get those people to adopt the new processes that you put in place?
So I will tell you that has been a little bit of a challenge. We've been on a mission of growth for really about the last year and a half or so. We've hit our hurdles just as anybody would, right? But you keep pressing. And you find out the people that are bought in and want to press forward with you, and they want to be on a winning team. And then you can kind of see the people that maybe that's not their mission or their goal. And same thing, you have to adapt to everybody on your team individually. It's not a one size fits all thing. So like where communication, we do it in all different methods. Like some people are really great at reading emails, and I know some people aren't. So I might send them a text message instead, but they still get the same message. I think as a leader, you have to adapt to your team to a certain extent to be able to have the success.
So as head of operations in your stores, Ford, Mitsubishi, you've got KPIs that you're communicating frequently and helping to keep everybody focused on mission and goal. What are some of the most important KPIs to you on the sales side that you focus the team on as you're communicating?
Obviously, we have volume goals with our manufacturers, and then our CSI is extremely important at both stores, or NPS with Ford is kind of what it's called now, but all in the same realm. Those two are probably the biggest factors. Obviously, you want to hone in on the EVs, which we hit our objective each month with those. But SSI, I would say, or CSI, and volume are two biggest ones. I think when you focus on too many things, it becomes kind of convoluted as to what the goal is. But if you can do volume and you can get good customer satisfaction, then you can pretty much hit the tick on the rest of them.
Yeah. So with a 15-20% increase on the year in unit count, what keeps you up at night as head of operations? Like, what are you thinking about as the next big obstacle you've got to solve for as we launch through the end of 2025 and beginning 26 for Q1?
That's a loaded question. A lot of things keep me up at night.
Such as?
Making sure that we do have the right tools and processes to get to the goals that we're trying to achieve, right? Our team, making sure everybody's mindset is everything. Making sure that when they walk in the door that morning that they left whatever was outside of work or whatever the yesterday brought is a fresh mindset. Used cars acquisitions, making sure we've got enough cars in the pipeline coming in and that recon's going smoothly and that we can get things, our time to lines down and we can get things on the lot fast for our turns. Just kind of a mix of everything, really. I have a remarkable, and it basically is next to my bed at night, and I'll wake up and I'll write a note.
I love
you don't
remarkable.
sleep a lot. Sounds like.
I've got a remarkable as well. Hopefully you have the new one that's backlit. They're very cool.
Yes,
it's a
I
great
did
piece
that
of technology. So last question up.
Yeah.
Last question up. So Ford is the most recalled OEM this year to date, right? Where do you see the opportunities in those recalls, and then also what are the challenges for you in a dealership in Eastern Michigan?
So when it comes to recalls, I would say we have a phenomenal service team that's here to help support any of our customers and that type of thing. We have a mobile service team. They go out, they do recalls. So, we try to best serve the customer in that realm. The challenge would be I guess, can come along consumer confidence, right? However, we're not the only manufacturer with recalls. We just happen to be all over the media this year, but everybody has them. So, it's just part of doing business, I would say.
Yeah. Any
know?
message you deliver to Ford about fixing it or figuring out what's going on and correcting for it?
I know that they've talked about it in meetings. They have processes that they're working on to implement better, quality control when it comes to those types of items. And hopefully in the future, we don't have this type of thing in the headlines as much.
Well, Kelsey Riley, Operations Director at Lasco Auto Group in Eastern Michigan, north of the Detroit area. Thanks for joining the show today and sharing your perspective on your journey and what it takes to win in today's environment. Thanks for being on the show, Kelsey.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Kelsey.
It's an interesting conversation. It's, I'm always fascinated to talk to people about the recall thing because it's like, hey, where do you see the opportunity? Where do you see the challenge? How do you focus your team around the opportunity? Because at the end of the day, recalls don't hurt the store. That's more service revenue. But she's right. You've got to build confidence in your team so that nobody freaks out before they fix it, because they're going to fix it. They're going to fix it, I think, quickly. And they aren't the only ones that are challenged with that. So, Yuli, let's talk Get AppraisalPRO. So stop losing thousands on trade-ins with hidden issues. AppraisalPRO scans in seconds, uncovers reconditioning costs, and integrates directly with vAuto. Try AppraisalPRO free for 1 week. Visit AppraisalPRO.com to learn more or click in the show notes below. And I actually just did a industry spotlight with these folks. It'll get released on Saturday. I was actually surprised by how inexpensive the tool is and how transparent it is and how much information it gives you about the vehicle when you're trying to make a buy decision. There's not a lot of things I get that excited about but when price matches technology, that's a winning solution. So AppraisalPRO, thanks for joining the show, and watch out for the industry spotlight on Saturday. I think that's when it releases anyway. So, well, let's turn up to our next guest, founder of Aviloo, Wolfgang Berger. Wolfgang, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me.
Dude, you've got a headset. I need to get a headset one of these days. That is very cool. So we appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for coming. You're going to talk to us about something that, in my mind, is a fascinating problem in all of automotive. You've got used car managers. You have the consumer public out there trying to figure out how to buy an EV well. And on the reverse side, you've got the reality that the most expensive component of an EV, Yuli, we talked about this. Ford F-150. What was the battery replacement on that Ford F-150?
74,000, something like that. It was
so when you're buying a used EV, you can't afford to make a mistake on figuring out the condition of that battery. So as kind of a setup to that, Wolfgang, I'd ask, how's biz in your world, in your company, and then what do you do? And tell us a little bit about your company.
Sure. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, business is great for us. The used market for EVs is picking up around the world, and as you know, we sell our battery tests in Europe, in Asia, and of course in the United States. And the first waves of used EVs are coming in, hitting the used car markets, and we help car dealerships selling them at a better price with the help of our battery testing system.
That's very cool. Very cool. So is there, you've got a battery test that will give the consumer and will give car dealers a picture of the battery. How does it work? Like, how does that proactively work, a battery test in this case?
Yeah, I think best I just show you that very quickly on a vehicle. By coincidence,
Yuli, this has never happened before. We got a live demo. Holy cow! This is a Daily Dealer Live industry first. Live demo. Here. Very cool.
That's a Volkswagen ID.4 full electric, and in the center of our system is the Aviloo box. That's how it looks like. And what it does, it connects to the so-called OBD port of the vehicle. And really, everything you have to do is switch on the vehicle, make sure it's on, and then connect the box to the OBD port. We do that here with the help of a OBD extension cable that comes in the case that we ship. And that's about it. You do not need to enter any data, any app or anything. The box itself already comes with a SIM card built in. So it gets the internet connection via the 3G network and starts sending data back to our cloud system, back to our servers, where we have developed machine learning systems, an algorithm that can independently conclude to what is called the state of health of the battery, what is ultimately telling you how good is that battery working. and that result is then handed out to a customer, in form of a battery certificate. You see the state of health. Again,
very
that's a
cool.
number in percentage. It's like 97.9% in that case. And that gives the confidence to the consumer when he is buying a used electric car. Because you're totally right. The battery is tremendously expensive. It's easily 50% of the whole vehicle value.
Yeah.
So you might want to check brakes, suspension, and everything, but the money sits in the battery, right?
So,
sure.
So what are some of the things from your industry expertise that make an EV battery go bad, or what causes problems in the battery that a used car manager might not realize?
There's a lot of issues that can happen in a battery. It can be from manufacturing, from the day of manufacturing. There could be a defect cell in the battery pack, and the weakest cell defines the whole battery pack. So if you got one weak cell, your capacity of the battery will go down, your range will go down. And then, of course, you have the usage of the car. I mean, we all know there are certain aspects that are not very good for a battery, like a lot of fast charging, a lot of high, strong accelerations, hot temperatures. And as a used car buyer, you don't know how that battery has been treated before. And that's what we tell you is the battery test. And what we do is we help the car dealer, right? We're the ally of the car dealer. We help the car dealer to sell an EV with confidence. And the numbers are showing that car dealers get, all the way up to 500 or 1,000 euros, more for an EV if they put it on the market with one of our independent certificates.
So what's the difference between this report and the status report that shows up on the dashboard of the EV?
Well, you're probably referring to the state of charge, which is shown on the dashboard, which has which
you
is
can tell I don't own an EV, so I'm
no worries at all. Yeah, you got the state of charge, which tells you the car is fully charged, but even a bad battery can be fully charged, and you know that from the smartphone, right? When it's brand new, it's all good, and after 2 years, it's empty at lunchtime, even though it was fully charged in the morning. And that's because these batteries, these lithium-ion batteries, they get worse over time. They degrade, right? They cannot store energy as good anymore. And the same thing happens in an EV traction battery, worth tens of thousands of dollars. And that's why we need the battery test. The consumer wants to see it, and they're ready to spend more.
So what makes your test so proprietary that you're able to provide information about the battery that the manufacturer of that EV doesn't provide on the dashboard? It seems to me, I get it in a gas engine. There may not be as much diagnostic stuff available to give a report like that back. But in EVs, it's in there somewhere. Why don't the OEMs, why don't the manufacturers make that available on the dashboard or in a report as a printout?
Well, it's a very complex matter. Yeah, we have a team of 80 people working on that for 7 years now. I did start the company all the way back in 2016 when I got my first EV, and I was quickly sold on EV and thought about services that would be needed in the future. So it's a complex thing, and we spend a lot of time and effort to do that. But more importantly, even is that our test is independent. You might not want to have the OEM telling you that his battery is great, right? You want an independent assessment from a third-party inspection party, and that's the role we play as inspection company here, providing a test system that is independent. It's also harmonized across all brands. So we calculate the state of health in the same way, no matter if it's a BMW, a Ford, or any other brand. So it's that independent aspect that's really important.
So as you think about all the different manufacturers, Tesla and everybody else that does EVs, is there a type of vehicle that's tougher for you to pull this diagnostic report from, as you spent all these years with all the engineers trying to come up with it?
Well, as you could probably guess, Tesla is making it more difficult than others, but we still found a way. So there is, adapter cable that you need, but it comes in the box. And as a car dealership, you can test all different Tesla models, and you don't even need to know which model exactly it is. There's such a variety with different battery sizes. Our box, once it's connected, it's able to figure out exactly what battery variant is in the vehicle, and it'll be printed on the report.
Wolfgang, do you agree then that if we're trying to focus focus on sound used EVs, which is going to be this next wave that's coming through. The battery health is an even more important indicator of quality of the vehicle over mileage. Like, I think a traditional used car buyer is always sorting by price and miles, but do you think we're going to get to a point, or should we get to a point where we are leading with, hey, here's my used EV, it has 97% battery health?
Absolutely. So we could even say the state of health is the new mileage, right? Because you can have two exact vehicles with the same mileage even, and one has a great battery health and the other one doesn't. So the mileage doesn't help you a lot anymore, right? It still helps you on evaluating wear and tear on brakes and tires, but not on the battery anymore. And some used car platforms have already started to introduce filters and the value where you can even sort out vehicles and say, hey, show me only vehicles that have a battery test or that are above a certain state of health, right? And that's certainly going to be that value that defines the whole value of the used EV.
Do you think that this will start to become a tool in service departments? Like, if I'm a customer, I've got my EV, I'm bringing it into the service department. Maybe I'm a GM dealer. Like, do you have some dealers that will plug it in, assess the health, and then they'll suggest repairs to the vehicle, to the battery, even replacement based on that health report?
Yes, absolutely. It can be used in the service business. Could also be offered to a customer as a service. And the good thing is that our battery test is really down to a cell level. So we are able to identify a defect cell and therefore a defect module, so that even it's helpful for a dealership to know which module could be replaced if we're talking about battery repairs, and we can identify that very cell that is causing the trouble.
Lauren Klein asks a great question online. She says, is there any kind of guarantee you offer with this information? Thinking about like a Carfax buyback guarantee or something similar.
Yeah, that's a great question. Stay tuned on that. There is more to come. Something along those lines will be introduced early next year. Yeah.
So what's the charge to a dealer for having this diagnostic tool in the store? How do you do that?
Yeah, so what we do is we license the equipment. It's $40 per month and box, so per rooftop. One car dealership only needs one. So it's a relatively inexpensive device, and then we charge $35 per battery test. And what we see is that car dealers are able to sell their EVs for anywhere between $500 and $1,000 more if they put it online with one of our battery tests. So the 35 euros comes in multiple times easily.
So the per pull includes the certificate plus some sort of a link where if they want to post it online, it'll kind of like a Carfax report. Is that what you're saying?
It's quite similar to that. Yeah, the battery certificate is issued in real time. It's sent over to the car dealer as a email attachment, or some larger customers are using our API to integrate it directly into a dealer management system, and then they can use that and put it directly on the used car platform, so customers can see, hey, this is a tested vehicle. It has an Aviloo battery certificate, so I can purchase this vehicle with confidence.
So EV rebates are over. I'm going to ask you as your last question to pontificate a little bit on what the future of EV looks like here in the United States. What do you make of demand in used cars for EVs over the next 6 months? Do you have any opinion or feedback on that?
Yes, I mean, currently we see relatively low prices for used EVs. That's not because these cars are bad, but of course there is always new cars coming in, bigger batteries, faster charging times. So technology evolves very quickly on EVs. But I think we have reached a point now where you can buy a 2, 3, 4-year-old EV without hesitation. Of course, as long as it has a battery test. And I'm pretty sure we'll see used EV prices rebounds and getting up again, because they're just very low now, and these are great cars. So if you're in the market for a used EV, go for it now. You get a lot of car for little money.
So what does a service department do? I've got let's say I've got a Tesla. It's a used car. I've already bought it. I run the test. Mm-hmm. The battery performance test says it's not good. What do I do with that car?
Well, you might still have, there might still be a OEM warranty on it. So you have, you have a proof in your hand that the battery needs needs repair or needs replacement. So it helps you a lot to turn back to, the OEM and claim battery warranty. And ideally, as a on a car dealership side, right? If you're taking trade-ins, if you're buying EVs, you run the test before buying them, right? That avoids you to buy any any lemon here with a bad battery. And on the sales side, same. You run the test, and your customer will appreciate the transparency. And customer sees dealerships that offer that certificate just as way more trustworthy and reliable than dealerships that don't.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Really, you're working to solve a major concern. It's interesting. You think about like plasma TVs 20 years ago, super expensive. They came down as the technology got less expensive. When do you think the cost of EV batteries will come down commensurate with some of that other technology? What do you see the next 6-12 months? Will we get some relief?
Well, the cost of batteries they came down a lot in the last 5 years, right? It's a long process, not about 6 or 12 months, right? But I think we will very soon see price parity between gasoline cars and EVs, right? Where you get a very nice EV for the same price as a gas car. And then, well, you can make your choice, but there's they're relatively simple cars. You don't have gearboxes that can break down or clutches or anything like that. And, of course, driving EVs, I love them. I love the acceleration and the power they have. But, both cars are great. I'm also a mechanical engineer, so I also love combustion engines.
Yeah. Well, Wolfgang Berger, founder of Aviloo, we appreciate you being on the show, sharing your perspectives on all things EVs, battery health, and how to make sure how to avoid that time bomb of buying the wrong EV with a bad battery. Wolfgang, appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. One last word: if you're at the digital dealer week in Vegas or used car week in November, or as you mentioned at another show in February next year, we will be there. So
very cool.
We can see you at any of these trade shows around the U.S.
Thank you. Thanks for the live demo too. That was super cool.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you.
Thanks, Wolfgang.
Bye.
It is a problem. Like, how do you buy a used car when you don't know what's lying under the hood? And it's interesting. You think about the best used car managers in all of automotive. They can feel the problem in that, the ICE engine, the gas engine, the old engine. So they say, although sometimes they may not be right. But EVs, you got no idea. You get in there, you're like, seems okay.
I do this once a year, not EV related, but I get a new iPhone every year and I list my old iPhone for sale. And now they stack them based off, price and battery health. So there's no used electronic listing that has a battery that is now not taking into account battery health, because that's what matters.
Why don't the manufacturers put battery health on their dashboard?
I think he hit the nail on the head. I think it's probably to separate themselves a bit. They got most of them have a 10-year, 100,000, right? So,
yeah. Lauren Klein says battery lifespan is one of the biggest hang-ups for consumers looking at a pre-owned EV, and I think that's absolutely correct. Just because we don't understand it, so companies like his Wolfgang, they're kind of dispelling Think
about finding a 150,000 mile gas car compared to a 150,000 mile EV, but the battery's 97%. Like they're two completely different cars.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Next, we turn to Director of Learning and Development at Principal Auto Group, Fabiola Mathis. Welcome to the show, Fabiola.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
All the way from Texas. So Fabiola, we're going to ask you our first question we ask everyone, which is, how's biz? And as part of that, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your auto group.
So I'm with Principal Auto, and we are a multi-rooftop across different cities. So we have a store out in Memphis, we have one in Grapevine, Corpus Christi, and then also here in San Antonio in the Bernie area. So we're definitely expanding and growing pretty quickly.
Very cool. And how's biz?
Business is great. We're actually looking at different options for, acquiring. Like, for example, we just had our grand opening at our Hyundai of Bernie store, which is fantastic, especially since the Bernie and the Hill Country area are growing pretty quickly there.
Yeah. So you're the Director of Learning and Development. From your perspective, as you're growing quickly, what are some of the best practices that you're implementing to help ensure culture stays intact and people are able to execute and do their job correctly? What are some of the tips you'd give groups that don't have a department dedicated to what you're doing?
So the biggest thing is I have a fantastic recruiting department that does really great job at getting the right people here. We do a culture index that kind of helps us vet personalities, because when you're a certain type of personality, you know that you're either going to thrive or you're going to have a little bit of difficulty in a role that you're in. So that's the first thing that they do, is they make sure that the recruiters are aligned with the culture of the company and what they're looking for.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna stop you there before you go to the next one. So you said a personality test. Which personality test do you do, or what test do you do to kind of test for that? What are you looking for when you do that?
So what we're looking for in that is just your personality. So I can kind of show you on my name tag. I always like to take it off and show it. So this is what it looks like on everybody's name tag. There we go.
Okay.
And it kind of gives you different points on someone's personality. So for example,
Interesting.
The red dot means something different than the yellow, the blue, and the green. So everybody has this on their name tags throughout the entire organization. So when you have a conversation with somebody, you know how to speak to them. So that really helps in development and growing the right culture, because you want to have the right people in the right role, kind of like what Kelsey was talking about.
So from a practical standpoint, I know their personality, I see their graph, and I walk up to you and I see your name badge, and presumably I'm trained enough that I understand what those dots mean and what. Is there different language that I use to engage with the person that way? And then, like, what's the impact from a financial standpoint to the group utilizing that?
So the biggest thing is, yes, just like we have a different conversation with everybody. Back in the day, like when I was selling cars, they taught you one way and one way only, which was no way. All they would do is, hey, go get a customer. And you'd be like, I don't even know where the bathrooms are. Like, come on, guys, help me out here. And so this kind of helps us teach them about communication, which is number one thing that I tell everybody. All relationships in your life are going to fail if you don't learn to effectively communicate with them.
But Fabiola, you don't need to focus on communication today. It's all about AI and technology and texting and Snapchat. Like, I don't need no stinking communication. What do you say to that?
Of course you do. You know, consumers are still coming into dealerships, and a lot of people think that they can buy online, but people are starting to see, hey, I did buy it from Carvana and I didn't have the best experience, because you have no experience. Something just showed up like an Amazon box to my front door, and there was nothing emotional about it. There was no excitement. There was no buildup. There was no cycle of purchasing. So I tell everybody, this is all emotional and relationship based. And if you don't have the right people that know that and can actually see it from a standpoint from hiring, then you're going to fail. You're going to fail at putting the right people at the right places.
So let's go back to your name badge, and then we'll go to our next topic. But I'm super curious about that. Showing your name badge with the different dots. Will you just walk us through what
what
those
does that mean?
dots specifically tell us? And then we'd love to know which test and how much the test costs. So I see the red dot. I see the yellow dot. I see, I think blue, and then green, I think, is what I've got. So what does that mean? How do I interpret that as an employee of principal?
So kind of as a good rule of thumb, the red one is about power and taking on challenges and being a leader. So for example, mine is far right. So I tend to take on leadership roles immediately versus somebody who wants to be told what to do and wants to be directed instead of taking the direction upon themselves. Somebody is yellow. I am far right yellow, which means I am a social butterfly. So somebody who is far left tends to work really well in a support role, for example, maybe in the parts department, where you're not constantly communicating with a lot of people, but you're very organized. The next dot is going to be your blue dot, and your blue dot is actually your patience. So that's kind of one of my foes in my life, that I don't have.
So that means
patience.
you don't have patience. Got it. Okay.
I don't have patience, but for me, it's more of, I don't have patience when somebody's investing in you and they're just not caring.
Fabiola, that's my answer, by the way. When people don't try hard enough and realize their potential, that's the frustrating thing. So what's the name of the test, and how much is it?
So this one is, I'm not familiar with the actual name. All I know is we have it internally for our company, and we just call it our CI test, and it doesn't cost the salesperson or the new employee anything. We do this at recruiting. So when you first come into the company, it's all about knowing who you are so we can get to the next conversation or not. So, and then the very last one is kind of my favorite. It is the green button, which is about structure. So are you somebody who thrives in a structure-like area? So this is somebody who, like for me, I have always taught, whether I was a general manager or the director of learning and development, I've always been very process oriented. You do it one way, it builds your confidence. And there are some people that are just kind of wallflowers. Yeah. They're kind of, the butterflies that just like to pull creative from everywhere, but those people are great in different roles as well. So I think it all starts with finding the right people.
It is truly interesting about in automotive, you got to find the right people for the right roles. But just because they come in the wrong role doesn't mean they don't necessarily end up in the right role, right? If you've got a super intentional approach to trying to figure out how do we career path you through the organization, automotive is great. There's plenty of room for everybody. I think you can find that right role. So one challenge, and you kind of alluded to this, Fabiola, is beginning employment at any auto group. So our prior guest said, hey, I got into automotive, never thought I'd stay. By the way, same here, right? I always thought I'd go on and have my real job at some point. How do you at Principal Auto Group think about that day one and that first week or so, giving an employee a great experience so that they feel fulfilled at work? What does that first day and first week look like for you?
So basically that has actually been the biggest thing that they brought me in for, was to focus on that, is onboarding. Because if you have a first great impression, it doesn't matter if you're the receptionist and you have a big smile, or you're selling a car, or you're an ASM, the first impression is everything. So we want to have a great first impression and say, hey, we're here to support you. We're here to give you some structure. And we want to make sure that you thrive in that environment. So what I put together is a 10-day onboarding program for all client advisors, which are salespeople. And I go day by day, hour by hour, what they should be doing within the first 2 weeks. So you work Monday through Friday for the first 2 weeks. And by the time you finish your second week, you will have already taken a nap, taken a phone call, know how to make an outbound phone call, know how to work your internet leads, and then also have your expectations from your leadership team. So if you're closing at a percentage less than this, you're going to be, put back on probationary so that you can learn a little bit more about it. Maybe you're not so strong on the phone. Okay, well, if you're closing less than this percentage, then we're going to put you back on, shadowing somebody. And I know as a manager that I can follow up with that by using KPIs.
How do you track all that, Fabiola? Is there a system or a process that you track all that? Because presumably you've got a lot of employees you've got Toyota, BMW, VW, Hyundai, Mini, Volvo, Infiniti, all that. How do you track all that?
So what I do is I actually track every single one of my owners every single Monday. And I have a meeting with them at 10:30 every single Monday, because everybody's here for first and second shift. And I just have honest conversations with them. Hey guys, how's it going? Do you have your onboarding? Do you have your manager supporting you? Do you have your logins? And I go by that checklist and make sure that they're holding them accountable. So on that sheet that I've created, you have your day-to-day, and it asks 2 questions. The first question that you're asked at the beginning is, what do you feel confident in doing today? And number 2, what do you find as a challenge already? So asking those questions and sitting down with your manager on a day-to-day basis for 2 weeks is giving them purpose, giving them structure. Because if somebody can learn to have structure within the dealership, they're going to thrive in anything that they do. So it kind of keeps the manager accountable as well. So, hey, it's your job to train them, because the salesperson doesn't fail because of themselves. They fail as a combination of both. So the sales managers really have to be there to support them, and the employee has to be there to listen as well.
So what do you do, Fabiola, with those salespeople, finance people, GMs, others that are like, you know what, Fabiola, I appreciate this. Thanks for all the structure and all the training help you're doing. But, it's not for me. I'm really good at selling cars and I can do it without any help. I don't need this. I don't need to take the personality test. I don't need to do all the other things. What's your response? Because you run into that, right?
Yeah, all the time. And I tell them, hey, if you're selling 15 cars, you do you, boo-boo. Just kind of one of those statements. And I tell them, hey, if you are thriving the way that you are doing it, hey, if I teach you one thing today, whether it's how to progress, how to change your vernacular, how to do something differently so that you can get ahead, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Well, if you're tapped out at 14 cars and you can't get past that, maybe anything that I will say in the next day or 2 will help develop you into getting to that 15 car guy, that 16 car person. So constant development is actually something that everybody should seek. So if you're not seeking constant improvement and growth, and especially in this industry that, just like Wolfgang was talking about, EVs, we've got AI coming in. We've got so many changes that if you're not progressively changing with the business, you're going to fall behind and you're going to be stagnant, and then you're going to fall below the pack in comparison to somebody who's actually actively changing and wanting to grow.
I love that response. I love that answer. And here's what's the truth of automotive today is if you got into automotive as a salesperson 4 or 5 years ago, 3 to 5 years ago, you completely misunderstand, a lot of them do, about what it takes to succeed, right? A lot of those X's and O's, dotting I's, crossing T's just got missed during the exuberance and the crazy times that were started in 2020 and kind of went up to a couple of years ago. Training salespeople is awesome. Is there a training system that you're utilizing, or when you're thinking about training on talking to a new customer and going through steps to the sale and whatnot, what process are you using and who's conducting that training, Fabiola?
I'm doing all of that training. So I travel amongst all 6 of our stores. I actually created the principal sales principles, which do a step-by-step, starting with the meet and greet, ending with your follow-up. And I go step-by-step at every single store. I make sure everybody signs in and learns the way to develop a customer, because you don't eat a chocolate cake in just one bite. You got to take little baby bites and learn. And I've never been a type of person that can sit in a classroom and learn by PowerPoints. I'm totally against that, because when you're in the car business, your brain works way faster than normal. All of us are high energy. We got to go. We want to learn in 30 seconds. Let's go. Let's sell a car. And so my coaching, I keep everything under 30 minutes. And most of my coaching is one-on-ones. So I spend most time sitting down with my sales managers. So what I do is at the beginning of the month and mid-month, I sit with every single manager and I go over their KPIs of their team. And they tell me who they see is struggling through their KPIs and through their personalities. So that's when we game plan together, kind of like as a team. And then that's when I go sit with those people that need a little bit more development in something, because I'm a one-size-fits-all versus everybody's going to fit to what I want to teach.
So what you are doing is so important in automotive today. What would you say to a dealer principal that's watching this show today in October of 2025 and he or she are like, look, I'm not sure it's worth the investment for the type of role Fabiola has. Like, it costs to have that role in. What would you say to them about being reticent or hesitant to add the position, the value of it? Because I see the value in it, but not every group has it.
Yep, correct. And you know what? If you guys are willing to invest in having snacks and water bottles for your guest, why won't you invest in having a coach side by side with your team? Because I guarantee you that if you're not constantly a general manager that is walking through the service department, walking through technicians, walking on the sales floor, you're going to miss something. And if you have somebody who's constantly training, like for example, I don't just train client advisors, I train ASMs, service directors. I've worked in every facet of the dealership because as a previous general manager, I've kind of managed it. So I have the coolest job because I can go everywhere and I can teach everybody and watch everybody develop. But you have to invest into this. Everybody invests on more third-party vendors. Hey, let's pay all these third-party vendors more money to get more leads. But who cares how many leads you get if your people are not managing them correctly? Who cares when somebody walks in and your floor managers are not paying attention? And this keeps sales managers accountable. It keeps client advisors, accountable. And it's a system that kind of checks itself.
So as we wrap up here, last question or so, you've got a bunch of different brands: Toyota, BMW, VW, Hyundai, Mini, Volvo, Infiniti. Is there a brand that better supports your training efforts and kind of coordinates and collaborates with you? And is there one that's a challenge? Let's start with the best one.
I think all of them do, because I've met every single OEM trainer for all the organizations and all the brands, and they're so kind. And I've sat in their training so that I can be aligned with their training style. So like at our Volvo store, I sat with the Volvo trainer so that I know that how Volvo wants to position their training program. Same thing with their BMW OEM trainer. So I like to be a partner, and I like to get advanced in it, because I can also be a better trainer and a better partner if I teach them to listen. And that's the biggest thing that I try to do.
So Fabiola, we connect on this. Here at the Ziglar Auto Group, Aaron Ziglar, 20 years ago or plus, hired a high school principal. His name's Mike Van Ryn, to head up our talent and leadership development courses. Araya Daniels and he work together, and they travel across all 41 rooftops. They're engaged in training, development, hiring, processes, what it looks like on that first day. And I want to make an invitation to you, and actually everybody can do this. Tonight on Ziglar Auto Group's YouTube channel, we have a live stream that starts at 6:15, and we're going to do what you talk about. We're going to actually have salespeople walk around each one of these 5 vehicles behind me and do a good old-fashioned walk around, right? And some people would say, I'd be curious your response, hey, in today's world, you don't need to do a walk around anymore because technology replaces that. Consumers can go out and find all the information they want on their own. They can see, consumers don't want to be shown. And I think that's maybe one of the biggest lies in automotive is that you can skip good product knowledge. You can skip good setup because technology will take that away from you. And that's why we go back to this old-fashioned process with our salespeople, and we crown a champion, which we'll do tonight. But what's your take on that? I don't need to do no stinking walk around because technology will do it for me. What do you say to that, Fabiola?
So I tell everybody, you know, when I teach them, I tell them, hey, a customer walks in with an emotional piggy bank with them. And the more emotional deposits you make, when it comes to the numbers and negotiation, you have a lot more there to cash out on, and they're a lot less resistant. So you have to emotionally deposit, and the walk around is one of the biggest components, because when you do your needs analysis, did you listen to my needs? Did you find the right car? And number 3, a walk around, what people forget is a walk around isn't showcasing the car. They're usually pretty sold on the brand already. You are doing your walk around is based upon your relationship with your client and telling them this vehicle fits your needs and this is why. And showcasing those needs.
All right, very good. Fabiola Mathis, Director of Learning and Development at Principal Auto Group. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for joining us today and sharing your perspectives on all things training and development. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Fabiola.
Well, that's fun. I love it. We believe in that training. We believe in that development, but it's not something everybody invests in. So it's a challenge.
But and everyone should, because I mean, I'm fired up right now. I'm 20 years in the business and I'm still looking to be 1% better every single day. So to have those resources like you guys provide in your group and like they're doing, that's the leading edge. You know, not everyone wants to suck. They want to be good. Give them the resources.
All right, go find the Ziglar Auto Group's YouTube channel, Yuli, and log in tonight, and then you can vote live for who's the best of the 5. So you'll see a lot of you'll see a lot of cool stuff.
Former walk-around champion. You probably
I am too. So I sold Saturns, and I went to a big competition. I still have a little wooden trophy from them. Now, what does that say about me? Saturn's no longer, right? My talent is no longer needed in the Saturn
world.
Though.
You sold the hell out of that Saturn, though. At the
That's time. Right, and I hit it. They had the old walk around where you actually beat the living daylights out of the thing. So
the headlight.
Sean H. says technology doesn't build the emotional connection needed for the experience, and I agree with that 100%. So Yuli, don't forget Friday coming up. We've got our F&I Roundtable. Dan C., thanks. Can't wait for Friday's F&I Roundtable session. We're going to bring on some of the best in the automotive industry in F&I. We're going to have a debate around what is the current state of F&I, where are we headed, what are some of the big pitfalls, and at the end of the day, with all things technology and AI, do we still need finance managers? Really?
Ooh.
So it promises to be a fun, action-packed episode for everybody, dealers and everybody else included. So Yuli, and to our loyal Daily Dealer Live audience, thanks for watching today. Daily Dealer Live, where we break down the biggest moves in the car business as they happen. Broadcasting live from Ziglar Motorsports here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Don't forget, we're back Friday with our F&I Roundtable, and we're here live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. So if this is your world, hit like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you'll never miss a beat. And we'll see you next episode, everybody. See you Friday.